critical incident was declared at the weekend and covers 4 hospitals in Lincolnshire, including this one. But Lincolnshire is not the only area struggling with staff shortages because of COVID. Channel 4 News has been told that at least 6 NHS trusts have declared critical incidents in the past week. They include hospitals in the northwest, in the south and in the east. The critical incident here was only revealed when an internal email from the local trust to staff was leaked to the Sunday Times. Marked sensitive, it said that the United Lincolnshire Hospitals Trust was, quote, unable to maintain safe staffing levels because of an extreme and unprecedented staff shortages due to sickness. And it said levels were affected across all services, but particularly stroke and cardiac care. Now, the Trust has asked staff to do extra shifts to help. But Unison, whose members include nurses and ambulance drivers, says that they are already running on empty.
In the past, when we've had critical incidents in winter months, the staff would have had some respite during the summer and the autumn, perhaps. So it's not surprising that some staff have actually talked about feeling burnt out, and that's really difficult for them to look at how they're going to get through the next couple of months.
In the leaked email, the Trust warned that some services might have to be stood down to protect urgent and emergency care. But the local care and commissioning group says that it's working with the Trust to deliver what it says will be the highest standard of care possible in what it describes as difficult circumstances.
Jane, thanks very much. Well, despite the extreme pressure on the NHS and other essential services, Boris Johnson has suggested that England's limited level of restrictions is the right one, although he warned that it would be absolute folly to believe that the pandemic was over. The new school term in England will begin tomorrow with new rules for masks in secondary schools in an effort to stop cases surging still further. Amelia Jen reports.
It's lateral flow tests instead of exam papers head Sean Mayer's placing on desks today. Like all secondary schools across England, his has been asked to set up an on-site testing zone in a bid to keep COVID cases now at record levels at the gates. He only found out yesterday in the Sunday papers that he'd have to ask pupils to wear masks during lessons, and now 7 staff have called in sick.
As of today, that's what I know. I imagine many of them will be testing this evening, and I'm fairly anxious that I'm going to get a few more emails and staff telling me that they need to self-isolate. But that's the reality of the situation, and we have to face that, and we have to find ways around that. One of the ways around it for us will be, if necessary, we will do super covers, where we put in here, for instance, lay up exam tables, maybe 120 exam tables and chairs, and have 3 or 4 groups in here supervised by 1 teacher.
Massive staff absences, by no means limited to schools, come off an explosion of cases this past month. More than 100,000 people across the UK have been testing positive each day since December the 22nd. And today, cases in Scotland reached a record high of 20,000.
But in London, which is the epicentre of Omicron in the UK, some are pointing tentatively to evidence suggesting the peak could be over. Scientists will be looking at the data here to work out how fast the variant is spreading elsewhere in the country. And over the past few days, the data is looking that little bit better, with the growth in the number of patients testing positive in hospitals beginning to slow down.
But that comes with a health warning from the NHS Confederation, which represents NHS trusts across England.
It does look as though the rate of increase in London has slowed down, but we don't know, firstly, how long this kind of plateau will last and whether there might be a second peak, for example, following more levels of social activity over New Year. We all want things to get better, but wanting them to get better is not the same as doing things you have to do to actually move on in terms of this crisis.
Today, the PM visited a vaccination centre in Aylesbury, offering words of encouragement to those getting their jabs.
You're being very brave. You're being very brave. Thank you very much. Looking at the pressures on the NHS in the next couple of weeks, and maybe longer,
looking at the numbers of people who are going to be going into hospital, it would be absolute folly to say that this thing is all over now by the shouting. We've got to remain cautious. We've got to stick with Plan B. We've got to get boosted.
Stick to Plan B, if not the catchiest of slogans, is the message for now. Masks in certain indoor settings and work from home if you can. This will be reviewed on Wednesday, but looks set to stay in place until the end of the month at least.